Let's stay in that region. King Msizulu says the ongoing royal family disputes are affecting the AmaZulu nation. His comments come as a senior member of the royal house, Prince Mbonisi Zulu, wants the recognition and coronation of the king to be set aside. King Msizulu spoke during a visit to Pinetown. He was assessing rebuilding efforts after the devastating April floods in KwaZulu-Natal. Our senior reporter Siphamandla Goge has been tracking this story and he joins us now. Sipha, so tell us a little bit more about the king's visit and what he said, what he did.
Well, basically it was to provide some much-needed relief in terms of food parcel for the flood victims, and some of them are still here behind me. The king was launching his foundation today. He started here because he came here earlier. I think it was in April when he was with businessman Patrice Motsepe. They visited this area. That's when Patrice Motsepe made a donation of 30 million rands towards, assisting the April flood victims. Today the king came back saying, yes, there is some help that has been administered, that has been handed out to flood victims, but most of them are still struggling with food and other basic needs. So the king came here to provide that support. He said he will be ensuring that his foundation assists those communities that need help across KwaZulu-Natal. But today was just a start. He came here as a follow-up. Since he was here in April, he made a promise that he was going to come back, and he has mobilized the resources and support from the private sector and non-government organizations to come and help out here in Nazareth. The area where we are currently comprises of areas such as Maran Hill. There is also Dozenhoek, there is also Gwandengezi. All those areas were heavily affected or were the worst hit areas during the flood. During the floods, Marian Hill also being one of the hardest hit areas. So the king came back here to offer support but also distribute those food parcels, and saying that he will be coming back to assess the situation of what people need. My colleague Bonga Mkhize will show you some of those flood victims are still behind me, as most of them are accommodated in community halls. There are 3 community halls in and around this area that are accommodating people in Ward 16, which is in Nazareth. About 3,000 houses were heavily affected during the floods. 150 of those were completely washed away. More than 35 people died in this area, and damage to infrastructure and houses is just massive. So the king came here as part of that follow-up visit.
All right. He also, however, spoke out about problems in the Zulu royal house. What has he said?
Indeed, especially since there is that ongoing dispute over the throne. Some senior members of the royal family refused to accept him as the rightful heir to the throne. They include Prince Mbonisi, who is the late King Goodwill Zwelithi Nikabheka Zulu's brother, who has gone to court to challenge President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to recognize King Msizulu Zwelithini, saying, well, he shouldn't be recognized. The family has not decided on the issue of the throne. That is still a matter that will be decided by the ruling core family members of the royal family, and those are the siblings of the late king and other senior members of the royal family. They say they are the only ones who should preside over the issue of basically nominating and appointing the next AmaZulu King. They want that decision by President Cyril Ramaphosa to be set aside, because they say they are the only ones who have the authority to nominate and appoint the king. They should lead that process. AmaZulu King here today, Msizulu Zwelithini, is saying, well, the ongoing dispute and tensions within the royal family affect the nation. There are certain traditional events and things that are not being done currently simply because of the ongoing tensions. So he says it's painful what is happening within the royal family. Let's take a listen.
Nokudideka esisuka kukho njengesizwe ngendaba yobukhosi kubhlungu la isiphuma khona, ngoba lo mbango okhona lapha ya ekhaya ekubeni beyazi inkosi yabo abantu bakwaZulu ukuthi ubani, kodwa basaqhubeka. Kubhlungu ke lento ngoba lokho kuma into zenu.
AmaZulu King, Mrs. Lukazwelithini there basically saying, well, royal family members know who is the rightful heir to the throne, who should be the king. He says despite all of that, they still continue with their efforts to ensure that his kingship is not recognized. He says that is painful simply because there is a lot at stake here. The nation is being affected by the ongoing disputes. He says, well, to his subjects, don't worry about it. Do not do anything about it. Leave it to God. Will decide what happens.
Talk to me about where we're at with regards the coronation.
The coronation was postponed by the king himself. It was meant to take place on the 28th of May, but due to the devastating impact of the floods, then it had to be postponed. The king himself said it would not have been ideal to have a celebration while his father's subjects are still affected by the floods. So there is a new date that has been set somewhere in August. The only thing that is left now is for the traditional prime minister of the Zulu nation, after consulting with some members of the royal family and the king, to announce the date. eNCA understands that the date is fixed for somewhere in August. Now, there are still too many discussions that are taking place regarding the issue of the venue. There is the other side of the Coronation Committee that has proposed a certain venue in Durban. There is the other side of the Coronation Committee that is not keen on that venue. They say traditionally all coronations have been done in Wanongoma. So there are still those talks that are taking place. However, we do understand that there has been a communication between President Cyril Ramaphosa and King Misuzu Lukazwelithini about the possible date for the coronation somewhere in August. So, but that date has not been communicated to the nation, if I'm not mistaken. King Misuzu Lukazwelithini touching on that issue, saying, well, the only thing that he's waiting for now is the issue of the certificate. He wants the certificate to be handed over to him, and that's it. He told those who had gathered here to say these ongoing dispute does not necessarily affect who is on the throne, because he used the Zulu phrase in saying, well, Sesiyinqobile, meaning we have won. By the way, his name, the other name is Sinqobile, so it's King Misuzu Lukazwelithini Hlome sakhe isihlangu Sinqobile. So he said, as per his name, he has won. All this noise that is going around means nothing, because the coronation will take place. The only thing that he's waiting for is a certificate of recognition. The Mail and Guardian is reporting today that one of the police experts has found that there was some tampering with the signature of the late king of the Zulu nation. Remember, that matter was in court in Pietermaritzburg. Judge Madondo ruled that, well, with or without the will, King Misuzu Lukazwelithini is the rightful heir to the throne. In fact, he said he's an undisputed successor to the throne. And those who were challenging the validity of the will, they said they wanted to challenge the execution of the late king's estate, not the throne per se. And so the issue of the late king's will and signature will keep on coming back, especially since there are these developments, but also since Prince Mbonisi has filed at the Pretoria High Court, whereby he wants to interdict the coronation from going ahead, also challenging President Cyril Ramaphosa from recognizing King Misuzu. But this is what the king had to say about his upcoming coronation.
Sesilinde nje itifiketi thina manje. Ngiyanethembisa sizwe sikaMageba. Ngesabuyela kulokho sesiyinqobile njengegama lami.
Well, sounding very confident things are going to happen as he wants them to come August, and that will be an incredible festival to observe. Thank you very much for that update. That is our senior reporter, Siphamandla Goge.